Coming up next on Insights on PBS Hawaii, does fine arts education have a place in Hawaii's public schools? Aloha and welcome to Insights. I'm Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Fine arts instruction gives kids an outlet for their creativity while developing critical thinking, problem solving, and communication skills. But are art, theater, and music classes a priority in schools that face sanctions for lower scores in math, science, and language arts? What are we going to do to expose our kids to the arts? Should parents foot the bill or be forced to send kids to different schools? Tonight, does fine arts education have a place in Hawaii's public schools? Join our conversation tonight by calling 973-1000 if you live on Oahu or 800-238-4847 if you live on a neighbor island. You can also join the live discussion by clicking the Insights logo at pbshawaii.org or send a tweet to PBS Hawaii using the PBS Insights hashtag. Now to our panel. Jonathan Johnson is the Executive Director of the Hawaii State Foundation on Cultural and the Arts. Strengthening the arts education from kindergarten through high school is one of the Foundation's priorities. Robin Kitsu is the Performing Arts Learning Center Coordinator at Nanakuli High and Intermediate School. Open to schools from students from all public schools, the center gives 4th through 12th graders the chance to be part of its production. Marilyn Cristofori is the Chief Executive Officer for the Hawaii Arts Alliance. Every year, the organization offers Arts First Institutes where teachers can learn how to integrate art in the classroom. And Justin Davies is the Associate Director of Outreach for the Honolulu Museum Art School. Mr. Davies has run school programs that integrate art into other subjects. We invited the Department of Education to be part of our discussion tonight, but they were not able to provide a representative this evening. And let's start, Robin Kitsu from Nanakuli, with you. What is the place for arts in schools now? I understand your program is almost strictly after hours.
Yeah, well, I think it's vital. I think what it does for the students in terms of helping them develop their creative thinking skills, their critical thinking skills, and just an outlet for them to express themselves. And when you talk about fine arts, you're talking the range from performing arts to music, to dance, to visual arts.
In your opinion, though, I mean, is there enough of that in the school?
Truthfully, no. And, you know, part of that comes from the pressures that we're feeling now with Strive High, the Common Core State Standards, all of these assessments. In fact, over the last 2 years, our Fine Arts Department has been trained to integrate informational writing into our curriculum, which kind of takes away from the training that we would be usually doing in terms of playing a band instrument or doing, you know, a choir. So it's been a challenge, you know, but I think the teachers, I think across the state realize the impact that all of these, you know, assessments and the sanctions, so they're, you know, doing their best to support, but at the same time, it takes away resources and time from their instruction in terms of their area.
Marilyn Cristofori, the Arts Alliance, you actually try and offer teachers the opportunity to learn more about this. What do you hear from the teachers about their own frustrations about trying to do arts in the public schools?
Almost all the teachers that come for whatever workshop or institute express exactly what Robin was just talking about. They're just overwhelmed with evaluation, assessment, and testing, and all the expectations. And they're so grateful for ways to integrate arts and creativity into another core subject so that they can find ways to meet the standards in at least 2 subjects or maybe more at the same time.
So they're trying to kind of sneak it in? Is that what they're doing?
It's not snuck, it's very prominently advertised.
Okay, great. And then John Johnson from the Arts and Culture Department, what do you see happening and what's been the history? I mean, is it true that arts education has been diminishing in the public schools from your perspective?
For State Foundation, State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, we continue to provide and partner with the DOE so that we can support their efforts. We understand that they're obligated to do all these other areas, and we continue to do different programs and support them and fund. And typically, it starts with an interview with the principal. Do you guys have time? And will you make a commitment? And will you sign so that we can come in and work and commit to, say, 16 days of a residency or 8? And it's tough to find them that they can commit that kind of...
What are they telling you is the competing demands?
Oh, they don't even tell you. They can't even respond because they're so busy, you know? That's typically a good sign that they're overwhelmed, yeah.
Justin Davies, you deal with a lot of teachers and educators as well. What are you hearing about the lack of arts in public schools?
A lot of what the other panelists have mentioned. I think in the first place, there's very limited time. Even though teachers are expected to teach the fine arts standards, along with all the other standards that they're responsible for, but lots of times it has a pretty small slot in the weekly classroom schedule. And then another compounding factor is that a lot of teachers don't, especially we work a lot with elementary school teachers. A lot of them don't feel confident teaching the arts. They don't feel they have a background in the arts, and there's no longer arts specialists at the schools, except schools that have a parent-teacher organization with fundraising.
Let me follow up on that point. Tell me, there were art specialists in schools before, and now they're gone? You say there aren't?
Yeah, it's very rare for us to work with in elementary school. Middle schools, high schools, they still have art classes. Although I don't know how, Jonathan, you might have a better sense, or Marilyn, about how that's changed over the past couple of decades. But elementary schools, it's pretty rare for us to come across a school with an art teacher.
Even at the department level, I mean, State Foundation on Culture and Arts is supporting the position in the Department of Education for the art.
You mean you're paying for that person?
We pay that person.
So if it weren't for you guys putting in the money, they wouldn't even have someone who knows about art?
Level.
At the Department of Education?
Department of Education does have somebody that is responsible for statewide arts. But a couple decades ago, they had 2 to 3 people responsible. So as the arts have been squeezed out of the school day, also the top director has.
And when you look at it,
It used to be at the academy, right?
Yeah, there used to be a full-time
DOE person,
position.
Oh, really? Okay.
so the challenge for the schools, you know, when you're looking at the budget and you're under these threat of sanctions and you want to meet all of the goals, you know, your funding then goes to literacy coaches, math coaches, whereas in the past you might have had a resource teacher in the fine arts to help the teachers integrate all of that. And so when you talk about how it's been affected, that's one major way in terms of just resources at the school level. I know for our program, we're grateful that, you know, we are a learning center, so we do have some funding from the state, but also the Hawaii Arts Alliance provides private donations to keep our program going. And, you know, for a lot of, I think, programs, they rely on that kind of support.
Who's making the decision, Robin, about that? Is that always the principal? And
You know, it is. I would say that, you know, administrators play a large part. I know of one elementary school where the principal believes in drama, that it's an important skill for all the kids to learn. So every grade level has a drama unit. The PTSA, I believe, pays for a resource person to come in and work with the kids, and every grade level puts on a culminating activity performance, but it's all integrated within the content area. So it could be about science, it could be about history. So again, you know, that's an administrator who believes and has the support from their faculty. But at the same time, I believe even administrators, I've talked to some who believe in the arts, but they're telling me, you know, I'm getting pressure from above to meet all of these academic goals and things. So, you know, it's a choice they have to make.
Marilyn, you were mentioning earlier about the state standards, and you mentioned that we do actually have a state law that sort of seems to emphasize arts. But what is the standard? I mean, I've got kids in public school. I don't remember ever hearing anything about an art standard.
Well, when this all kind of started back with No Child Left Behind, and even before that, some of our leaders saw the need and campaigned for, and a state law was passed in 2001, and we're the only state in the nation
And what is the state law? What does that say?
It says that it names 6 partners. The State Foundation on Culture and the Arts is the coordinator. It names the Arts Alliance. It names the DOE. It names the Independent School Association, the University of Hawaii College of Arts and Humanities, and the University's College of Education.
And it so names these partners, but
In
then
the state law.
something happens from that?
We're supposed to collaborate to oversee arts education statewide.
Okay, let me go to you, John. Do you feel that that's been effective? I mean, is that working? Is that happening?
You know, the group missing from the table is still missing from the table, right? I mean, yes,
DOE.
it works, but we really need the DOE to partner in on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me ask, and if anyone knows this question, is do what we're doing in Hawaii, I mean, are we an outlier in terms of the states, or is this pretty common that arts is not being emphasized? I mean, it's a national program. Go ahead.
Well, they're looking at sort of 1990 to 2000, and then 2000 to 2010, roughly. I guess nationwide, arts programs have not significantly declined. However, there's a lot of variation. In particular, schools in low-income areas have seen significant declines in our education. I think that, and in Hawaii, where I think a lot of our schools fall into that category, and certainly it's true here, but nationwide it's an issue for sure that's particularly hitting low-income students.
Let me ask Robin Kitsu, this is a question from Corey and Kailua, right on point here. Do the fine arts standards really carry weight, or do they not count because they aren't tested for?
Well, that's the issue. I mean, you know, the fine arts develops critical thinking skills, and that's what, you know, all of these assessments are trying to assess the kids on. It's just not in the standardized assessment way. It's performance-based, and I think that's the challenge. And one of the concepts is integrating the arts into the core content areas to help students get more engaged, to make it more relevant to them, and to kind of support the assessment styles that they will be given. So again, I agree. It is something that's, in terms of standardized testing, it's not assessed in that way. But if you were to see a performance or hear a student play an instrument, I think that's performance-based assessment.
I guess what I'm not getting, and I think this questioner is asking the same question, is that, okay, what does a standard mean? What is that? You could say we have a standard, but what does it actually mean? Marilyn, have you got a thought about that? I mean, what are they asking that the students be taught?
The standards change according to the academics in charge. And in the course of the time since this law was written, we helped create the first set of fine arts standards under the Arts First Law, and they've already changed since then. We created a toolkit to help integrate the arts, and it's helped very much. But since then, we're already on toolkit number 3, because we have to keep writing that.
Can I get a sense
There are specific things, and there's not a single opinion about how you would assess the fine arts.
Let me back a little bit, maybe John, you can help me with this too, is what was it they were supposed to know? Like, were they supposed to know how to work with clay? You know, at this age, they're supposed to be able to read a sonnet at this age, or, you know, what was the...
Originally, yes.
That sort of thing, very
Originally,
specific.
yes, but that has shifted as the idea of what a student should know in general, and has shifted with the demands of the 21st century and the looking forward to including a heavy emphasis on STEM in the training. So the idea that the art form and its particular disciplines should be tested in school has sort of been moved aside. And the feeling is pretty much that if somebody is going to become an artist, they probably need to study with a master artist to get those particular skills. But the creativity that's developed by the arts needs to be there no matter what. The same way that you would never take mathematics out of the curriculum. You should never take the development of creativity out of the curriculum.
Okay, and another question here, a very interesting question from Dan in Honolulu. One of the great things about art music classes in a public school was, this is past tense, they provided supplies and equipment, and I think that's right. You know, many people at home don't have the supplies, they don't have clay. I always keep talking about clay, but, you know, and it says, can students still get art instruction without paying for private lessons? John?
You know, we were just in Ka'u High School in the band room, and all the instruments were packed up in their cubby holes, and they had to make that tough choice of no band in the whole school.
At Ka'u High School?
Ka'u High School.
That's a big high school.
And geographically, I think it's as big as Oahu. It's huge, but because of their population, it's very challenging. And I sit on a school SEC and have to look at making those tough choices, and they have to employ those people that would help raise the test scores, and they had to make that choice. So the only programs they're getting are slack key instruction through our grants at Na'alehu Theater, or our Artists in the Schools program that we're funding, or Artists in Residence that we're doing. So there's ways to get that, and it may not specifically be through the DOE, but all the other grants and programs around it.
The kind of matching your instruments packed up story, there's when we go to schools, we often ask the question, do you have a kiln? Because it turns out a lot of the elementary schools had kilns for firing ceramics. And typically, you know, those kilns are sometimes under boxes or have been gotten rid of completely. So obviously, they used to be in the schools, but most schools, if they have a kiln, not too many people know how to use it anymore. It's not functional anymore.
And a lot of it is on the shoulders of the teacher. Our band director goes on DonorsChoose.org and, you know, gets donations for instruments. Their booster club does multiple fundraisers to pay for the repair of instruments. And so again, it goes back to the teacher and I guess even the parents of the students to help support the program, to provide the instruments and equipment that's needed.
To get on that point again, though, is the second part of that question was, do you need private lessons? So where is a family to go if their school doesn't have something for them in a regular school curriculum? Marilyn, you have any thoughts about that?
Actually, it's coming to being a combination of public-private funding to make things work. Certainly the state is responsible, but private funding, and just an example of something that we did along that line, we're helping the Performing Arts Learning Centers like Robbins. There's 9 of them statewide, and they really are after-school programs. And they do get some public money to exist at all. But we started a challenge grant program, so only with private money, and that's private foundations, individuals, national and local. And we're able to give, depending how much we raise, money to each, we call them the PALCs, Performing Arts Learning Centers. And then they match it, and then we're able to match that. So it becomes private money, 2 for 1.
Youth Symphony also does programs at the Boys and Girls Clubs. Yeah, that are free, and they have the instruments, and it's a real entry-level type programming. They also have the Youth Symphony, which is for students that have gone beyond what the school can offer. And
The other thing we were talking a little bit about before was just the physical facilities also. You mentioned the kilns, but we were talking about the fact that there's not a performance space for schools anywhere west of Pearl City on Oahu, and I don't think any new school has been built with a performing arts center that I even know of recently. So what does that say about the commitment of our legislators and DOE to that issue, John?
you know, what was it? Pearl City Cultural Center was the last one that was built, right?
I think so.
I think they're focused on technology, and
well, you know, the truth is, we've been doing this for 24 years. Our program has been in existence.
Without an auditorium?
Yeah, without an auditorium. We started off performing outdoors on a stage. We didn't even have a cafeteria back then. And so once the cafeteria was built, they built us a stage. But, you know, when you're talking about doing dance, teaching dance on that kind of floor, the injuries that happen, et cetera. But, you know, we do have legislators that are trying to get us the funding to at least start the design and planning for a performing arts center. But again, it is, it's always a challenge with state funding.
The Honolulu Museum of Art School does offer a number of programs. So this year, I think we had 100 different offerings for adults and students. These are tuition-based programs on the weekends and in summer, but we do offer scholarships for families that need it. And we recently, the state legislature recently approved funding for an expansion of the art school that hopefully we can make happen. So,
I got a question here from Anthony and Ka'ava. The panel is speaking in generalities. Give us specifics. How many teachers are qualified to teach art? How many art programs are at each level? Elementary, middle, and high schools. We don't have someone from DOE here. That would be a great question for them. But from your guys' perception, really, do all kids have access to art education, or any idea what percentage of kids in Hawaii Public Schools have access?
When you're looking at the elementary schools, again, it's based on each teacher trying to integrate the arts. So, as was said earlier, a lot of them don't feel comfortable or confident in integrating. In the high school levels, you have several schools that the band programs have shut down. Performing arts, again, I think learning centers are surviving, but at other schools, you may not have a drama teacher. You may have an English teacher doing that on the side, or even another content area teacher offering that as an after-school program. Part of the learning center's role is to offer students who don't have that kind of access an opportunity to take these classes at like a school like ours. So, we have students from all over coming in.
Let me ask, yours is in a primarily not a high economic zone, and this question kind of goes to that. My kids' private music classes cost about $300 a month plus equipment. If it's not offered in schools, is fine arts only for those who can afford it? Is that really where we're at now? I mean, realistically.
We're funding, I think, about 68 artists in the schools grants this year. Statewide, we also do our Art Bento program, which
Can I ask how many people that touches, or how many students do you think your programs touch?
Ask Marilyn.
About
Oh, that was easy.
about 20,000 when you add it all together.
Yeah.
20,000 between the
Public schools.
various
For State
organizations.
Foundation.
Yeah, the various programs. We reach up to about 20,000. That's a drop in the bucket. It's not enough, but it's a start. And it's a healthy start because it isn't drive-by art anymore. He was explaining it's the residency. The teachers work alongside the artists and they develop a curriculum everybody can learn to teach. So it's a beginning. But that affordability thing, I have a dream, if I can talk about it. Sure. I have a dream that when we send the artists in schools into the schools to work with the kids, they often can spot talent. And I would love for somebody, maybe the legislatures as they move forward with the new center, to make a program available for the kids who can less afford to go to a private instruction, but have the talent and deserve it. And I would love to see a program where you can take the kids like you would take somebody who's going to be an astronaut and give them special training to take them into a situation. And we don't have such a program. That's just a vision.
Another good question. A lot of good questions tonight. Robin Inahaina says, lots of things in public schools have gone to corporate sponsors. And it says, what about soliciting corporations, companies for fine arts funding? Are we seeing that? Are we seeing that in Hawaii?
Yes.
Hawaii Community Foundation is a huge sponsor. They match 50-50 for our Artists in the Schools program. So instead of $215, $284, we have $500,000 that we distribute statewide.
That money comes from donations to the Community Foundation.
And they partner with us. Yeah, so that they match our public funded set. So that's
But I think
great.
One of the challenges with the fine arts is, unlike STEM, which I think the state, initially pushed, and that helped to bridge corporate sponsors with the robotics programs. We don't really see that kind of support. And personally, I would love to see the state really support the fine arts in that way. And, help these teachers, develop those partnerships and corporate sponsors?
Another good question. I love how our viewers can come up with something that outside the box. John and Makiki says, well, what about wood shop and metal shop? Have those also gone away?
Yes, they've gone away, and robotics is in those spaces. So you go to Kalani High School, it's no longer the wood shop or auto shop. Robotics kids are in there building their robots. It's a
Which is
whole
what you
new
need
world.
to fix a car now, too, anyway.
It's all tech, exactly, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt our conversation for a moment to address our viewers. Tonight, we're discussing where fine arts fit in Hawaii public schools. Please call, email, or tweet your questions and comments. Call 973-1000 if you live on Oahu, and 800-238-4847 if you're on a neighbor island. Now, let's shift gears a little bit and give you guys a chance to deal with some of the critics here. There actually are some people who are saying, I'm sorry. Okay. I feel that the first 8 years of school should be math, science, history, reading, and English. If the student maintains a 3.0 grade average, then they could participate in fine arts and other electives. And a second one, teachers can't keep up with all the stuff expected of them. English, math, and science are what will help the kids get jobs, not this curriculum. Reaction. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Actually, they did a study with, IBM did the study with CEOs. It was a global, not just Hawaii. And they asked what was their top criteria for a new hire or promoting somebody already hired. And they said creativity. They assumed everybody was going to come with your basic math and engineering, and that shouldn't go away. But underneath of that has to be creativity, and they felt that the arts was the only thing that really inspired that. Whether or not they became an artist was there are more doctors that play musical instruments than almost any other profession outside of the musicians.
Robin Kitsu, you've seen a lot of kids come through the system.
Yeah.
Do you see a real value, a practical value?
Well, I think the reality is that, to say that the students will embrace learning, the math, reading, English, is not realistic. We want to engage the students, and I think integrating the arts into core content is one way of engaging students. It's no secret that the West Side, we face many challenges in the academic scores, and one of the reasons is that for a lot of the kids, when we interview them and we do surveys, they'll state it's boring. But all of these projects, whether it's problem-based, project-based units, help engage the students. And it still addresses the core content standards, but it also taps into their creativity. It helps them with collaboration skills and problem-solving skills. And so, to not have that in the schools, I think you're going to lose a lot of kids.
If you look at, let's say, a school like Punahou, it's very competitive. It produces students who are very competitive. They have glass blowing. They have arts throughout. They have dance, music. They get it, that helps make students competitive. But when we look at our public schools, sometimes people say, oh, we can't, waste time on those things.
Well, they're paying $19,000 a year for Punahou, too.
Yeah, but it must make sense or they wouldn't do it.
Right.
It must make the best kids, so.
There's countries like Japan, Hungary, the Netherlands that score amongst the top in the world in terms of math and science. They all have mandatory arts programs. There's also been some studies that show strong associations between arts education, particularly the impact on students from lower income families. So students from lower income families who've participated in intensive arts experience have higher science test scores, higher writing test scores, higher scores in mathematics, higher mean GPAs. They're more likely to participate in a number of measures of civic involvement. Again, those are associations, not causation, but they controlled for a socioeconomic background as part of those.
Marilyn, when we talk about this issue, though, are we talking about, we've been talking very generally about all arts. Is there a particular kind of activity that tends to engage kids more, or we were talking about across the board? Do you need to offer all different kinds of art?
Different arts specifics appeal to different kinds of temperaments. Somebody who's ADD probably would do well in dance. Somebody who needs more observational skills might do better in visual arts. And it just depends on the individual. They tried to do a study and they found associations between music and things and dance and other things. Dance apparently related to reading if they had it. Yeah, in early childhood. There is a teacher at Punahou, you brought that up, and he's done a lot of research in brain research, a lot of study in that. And he decided to change what was happening at the elementary school in terms of their math class, which was the first thing in the day. So he went in and he said, okay, out around the building, run, jumping jacks, create a dance. Okay, now we'll have math.
Okay. Let me ask this question too, have you seen examples where kids who have challenges, disabilities, ADD, actually improve their brain activity, become better learners because they've been involved in music or something like that?
One example, I mean, I had a student years ago that, we gave her scripts, we worked on a play, and we presented it to the faculty. This was way in my early years, and I wasn't aware because it was after school program. She joined after the performance. Her teacher, who was a special ed teacher, came up to me and said, "Did you know I'm so proud of so-and-so because her disability was in reading. How did you get her to learn that script?" And it's not just reciting the words. It's called interpretation, analyzation, justifying your choices and how you're going to perform the piece. It's not an essay, but she's demonstrating that knowledge through our discussions, through the coaching, and through her performance. We have a number of students who were not doing well academically, but joined our program and developed that confidence that, if I can be on stage, doing my math homework or doing my English work, isn't that hard of a challenge? Because those same skills of commitment, hard work, and just working with other people, if you're having problems, they applied that. And that's what we always stress in our program. We said that we're not here to develop you to become a Broadway star. What we want you to do is learn these skills that you're applying and transfer them into your other areas of your life.
That's a point that goes right to this next question, I think, for Justin, because you do these programs where you integrate. Can you give me an example of how art is integrated into other subjects? Where does it fit into a math class, for example?
Okay. So, I think there are connections with math. I think math in some ways is a little trickier to integrate with art than some other subjects.
That's why we asked the question.
So, I guess I'll start with a science answer to that. So we've done a lot of programs this year integrating art and science. In science, you need to create mental models for things that can't be observed. A lot of science measures things that can't be directly observed. And so you have to be able to imagine the orbit of an electron, or you have to be able to imagine the scale of the solar system. And art is a really great way to help students develop some of those mental models. We've done one program we ran this year, looked at Manoa Stream, and students from Alawai Elementary and Prince Kuhia Elementary traveled the course of the stream, doing water measurements along the way, but also capturing their impressions of the stream through the lens of an artist along the way to see how that stream changes going from Mauka to Makai. And so art was a way to really pair scientific observation, to really improve scientific observation. So anyways.
That's a good example. Yeah, and John, I mean, in your experience, you've watched kids engage with artists through your programs. Have you ever had an example where the academics were improved by someone's experience?
We did a residency at Ke'au, and it was a mobile project where the artist went in and offered it to all the teachers. They're making these Calder-shaped mobiles, and the math classes were the ones that signed up for all of his opportunities to work with him, and they felt that that really met their needs, and the math teacher chose to do the integration, right? We pretty much go there and offer it, and then they can sign up rather than, well, you have to do it. But
yeah, it's we did a project with a DOE arts integration workshop, and we created camera obscuras. So these are little cardboard boxes with a magnifying glass, and it projects the image onto a piece of vellum. You can sketch the scene on the vellum that you see. Well, what happens if I move this camera obscura closer to my subject? How do I have to change the slide to alter the focus? There's a mathematical relationship there to be unpacked, and it's a really an inquiry approach to math. The Calder example is excellent. You can derive understandings about multiplication through how you balance 2 weights to 1 weight on this side. And it's engaging for the students.
Let me add this. This keeps coming back. Money is so tight. Emphasis needs to be on teaching how to make a living. Let's talk about that in arts education. I mean, I think you mentioned that if you had a performing arts space, you could teach people lighting techniques.
Well, yeah, I mean, we work with what we have, and you teach them the technical side of theater. It's not always everybody on the stage. It's the backstage area and all of that. But when you look at the skills that the fine arts asks students to do, these are skills that they'll need when they go out into the real world. Collaboration, problem solving, the confidence. Many of our students, part of their issue is just being confident in speaking in public or even doing one-on-one interviews. And we've had a number of students all say, if it wasn't for this program, I wouldn't be able to speak in front of my class, doing class presentations. But the other thing is, again, we're engaging students to be able to integrate other areas into their lives. And for our program, we have a 90%, when we look at the graduates of our program, have gone to college. And
90%?
Over 90.
And I don't mean to be
no, well, it's not only our school, but whoever has joined. Yeah. But again, part of that is we push college as something that you all should do. And we have alumni who come back who graduated from college. They share their stories. They assist the kids in the application process and all of those things. And so Again, it engages the students, and when they're engaged, they're willing to learn and do more.
And actually, you bring up a good point in that those programs bring people from outside the school into the school to meet kids. That's a lot of what you've been doing, right, John? Sure.
Yeah. Even Candy Suiso's program out at YNI,
the video
those kids they're getting work, and they're learning to write. And
I can tell you, at Hawaii News Now, we have several people that are graduates of that program.
Absolutely.
And they're very talented. They work very, very hard.
And they have to learn how to write stories, right? And that's a whole key part of it. It's not just the aesthetics of it. It's the writing and the math that goes with the visual literacy. In today's world, these kids have to learn how to deal with visual images. Everything they're doing now is going to be visual literacy. And if they're not getting it in the schools, they're just getting it on their device. Someone's got to teach them.
Can I give one example of academic change? Because somebody asked about that in one of the artisan schools residencies that we did out at Kalihikai Elementary. But it was the integration with science and visual arts. And the artists took them out to the ocean. They had to study the tide pools, the reef, understand it all. They all had to adopt a fish or a seaweed or a rock or a piece of coral or something. And then they went back to their science class, and they had to be able to visually recreate whatever their adopted fish or seaweed or whatever it was. And then they had to collaborate, and they had to get up in front of the class and work collaboratively and recreate visually. And then they had to teach each other what their fish ate and why it lived where it did and what color it was and where it was in the food chain. So out of that, then they had to do their own murals. And we went in, this was just last semester, basically. And they had, the teacher was so happy. She came over and she said, this guy, he never wrote a sentence in his life, and he's writing full sentences, and his science scores went up 58%.
Wow, great story.
And because he understands science now, because he can.
Let me just throw one thing out as the last part of this section here, is the other thing I had heard somewhere, and I apologize for not having this fact in front of me, that there was a school where they had a rather high dropout rate, but when they introduced a particular music program, I think it may have been guitar or ukulele, I can't remember, all of a sudden their retention rate on the students rose dramatically. Are you folks familiar with stories like that, where one particularly exciting arts program kept people in school longer so they could do their core subjects?
I've had a principal say to us that one of the areas that they're concerned about is geographic exceptions. So if a family is not happy at a particular school, they can request a geographic exception. And principals are under some pressure to limit the number of geographic exceptions. And so we were sought out as a way of making their school more attractive to students and families, as a way to limit their geographic exceptions.
Interesting. So what did you do?
That's at Queen Kahumanu Elementary, and we work with every grade level there, every classroom, and creating integrated projects, a residency essentially. We also have after-school programs for English language learners at that school.
Do you know whether it worked?
In terms of
attracting more people to the school?
Well, so this is our second year, and we haven't looked at those numbers yet to see. So hopefully it will. I do think it's telling that the principal sees that as important, and we have a lot of enthusiasm from our students and our families.
And it's funded from outside of the DOE, though, right? Yeah.
That is funded with a private funder.
Yeah, we've got another question. Ray and Kihei, how would the panel pay for the fine arts when we don't have the money to supply the basics? The school infrastructure is falling apart. Robin, you want to find out?
And I think that's the challenge. And yet I think you have passionate teachers who will find ways, private donors, again, looking for ways to support. I mean, it's sad in one sense that, teachers will have to do that on their own time and go out. But, what I see happening, especially with programs that are successful, the parents see the benefit, and they will go out and help to fundraise or organize, have a booster club. What do you guys need for this next production? They'll go out and help raise monies or solicit donors or corporate sponsors.
From your understanding of the school culture, how important is parental pressure for something like that? Does that work? I mean, if a bunch of parents got together and went to a principal, are they going to get something like that?
I think it depends on the administrator, honestly. But I think, here's an example. There are some schools that, because of the pressure to increase the scores in reading and math, they're taking away an elective from the student and replacing it with like an English workshop. I've heard of this before. It's happened at our school before, and parents were pretty upset because they found out my kid will not be able to take band. And we understand they need extra help in English, but then you're denying my child this opportunity to be in the band.
With those same parents, though, and I'll throw this out to everyone, although this is ending up being a conversation between you and I, with those same parents, do you think, accept having their kids stay an extra hour after school to work on the language arts in order to keep that elective? I mean, how important is the parents' support of arts in this community to get arts into the schools?
I think it's very important. And, but again, at our school or our district, I mean, it is a challenge to get the parents involved all the time.
And they do need to be able to read and write and do math. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, there's, this idea of, okay, our kids aren't getting the basics, so we need to give them more of the basics. But maybe some of why they're not getting the basics is because they're not as engaged as they need to be. A lot of time kids are checked out in school, as we all know, and the arts is one way to make them present in their classroom, so that they are taking in, those core subjects. We're not about eliminating core subjects or we're about really.
How important is it about getting to teachers at the front end, training teachers or getting teachers involved? I know that's one of your programs, getting teachers trained.
Yes, we do offer an annual institute for teachers. I was fully enrolled, and it's about arts integration. But the person who's writing about, the community absolutely has to be involved. The parents have to be involved. If we don't all take responsibility for the creative future of us and the children that are coming up, I mean, you can say there's not enough money, there's not enough time, you can say whatever, but everybody's responsible. So they're asking the right questions, because we will be able to introduce a program next year that does just that. It requires the community to be involved, and it's a program that will be announced pretty soon, and it has a record with the research where it's been before of attendance going up to almost 92% with kids that were not engaged, and they became engaged. It has a record of raising math scores 22% and raising reading scores at least 13%.
You know, in the tone of the questions that I'm getting, and it sounds like this is a very strong message to the panel, is it's not an either-or choice. We can do do both.
Yes.
Here's an interesting point. Another writer, Hollywood often films at Turtle Bay and Kualoa Ranch up and down the coast where students go to Kahuku Intermediate and High, a Title I school where students only have one digital media class and a little film club that runs on a shoestring and a prayer and no theater for drama, et cetera, et cetera. Shouldn't we be asking film and TV to come to film in Hawaii to donate to our local public schools? Are they doing that, and how do you get them to do that? You just got to ask?
All of the above.
Yeah,
They're
Candy
not.
Suiso's probably the greatest one who's championed that, or the film office, you know.
Is that money? Is there money flowing from the film industry?
You know, I think LELA's done a really good job of that, of having, I know at, say, King Intermediate and different campuses, they actually have on campus those opportunities. And for example, my student is at Castle, and they just did an integrated video project with all the science, history, and math. And this one project, they had to do a video, groups of kids, cover all those topics, and they just were presenting them the last day of school. And there's a great example of taking all the science and everything and history, and the kids had to write their own video, journal it and everything, and put it all together. So it's possible. You just have to think creative.
If we can make the mind shift that it's not either or, but it's both, or it has to be supported, because it isn't, like, we would be just as sad if somebody said they were going to eliminate reading classes.
Right. You know, who has to drive this, though? I mean, we talked about parents, we've talked about private industry, we've talked about the arts community, but in the end, is this something that the legislature and the governor is going to have to step up and seize? This is a question. I've been a teacher for 31 years in both private and public school systems. I've seen fine arts disappear. How serious is the DOE about educating the whole child and not just emphasizing STEM or core? And I think under there is a cry for funds. I mean,
I think we're at a little bit of a shifting point. At least I'm optimistic that we are. The partners we work with and the DOE are enthusiastic about the idea that Common Core can be, offers a lot more opportunities for arts integration, and they've been actively promoting arts integration through professional development for teachers. They have channeled federal funding to the Honolulu Museum of Art to implement programs for recent immigrants that are arts integrated programs. And so I feel like in the DOE leadership, we're seeing some signs of a shift, and I think it really is like it's going to be a combination of private funding, of the government supporting those programs more, hopefully, as well.
And as far as we go for State Foundation, yes, we are absolutely turning that focus. We've been, involved in arts education, but recently we're putting a lot of our resources towards that.
So here's this expertise developing about how to integrate. There's resources out there. People want to jump in. But Robin Kitsu from Nanakuli High, knowing the culture and the structure of DOE, and once again, we should remind folks that we invited the Department of Education, and they didn't come. So, Robin, you end up being both spokesman and critic of the DOE. But does there have to be a mandate to the DOE through funding to get this done, or will DOE ever really truly embrace this concept?
I think if you have a mandate, then that would force their hand. But at the same time, I also look at leaderships, the principal, their vision of how they see the arts playing a role in helping the students. I look at the teachers, their willingness to get trained and figure out how they can integrate the arts into their curriculum. But obviously, if you have a mandate, that will force the hand, and that would allow schools more flexibility in offering more services in the fine arts for the students.
But also, if each school chooses, okay, we're going to be a performing arts complex, and focus that, and then compare and see how it works. I have a son at a performing arts school and one at a STEM school, and people can choose where they want to send their kids, and let's see how the results are at the end.
But the learning centers do have a survey. We look at the GPAs, their assessment scores, and all of that. And from what I understood, the Board of Ed was very impressed with the report and the gains that students have made. So that's one area.
There is one school on Maui, it's called Pomaikai. It's an elementary school that is probably, it's a recognition school, and it does have arts integration as the core of its entire curriculum. And it's become somewhat nationally famous for doing that, and it is completely successful in doing it.
Let me ask, here's another interesting question. Melissa Mikiki, she mentions that Lincoln Elementary in Papakolea has a part-time art teacher. Maybe schools should have after-school classes in order not to compete with regular classes. Also, Hawaii should apply for Wallace Foundation grant money? We have that?
We haven't convinced them yet. We have applied.
Okay, but I mean the idea of a mandate that here's some money, but you do it after school, would that attract families, or families wanting to have their kids after school?
For secondary, what you compete with is athletics, and that's what our competition is. Because we're after school also. The practices are all after school. The kids going to make a choice between playing football or being in our program. They're going to pick the sports. But I think we're already doing that, because there isn't a place during the school day. We are offering it after school to allow students who want to and are available to participate. But then again, you deal with transportation. I have 2 students from Campbell High School who catch 2 buses, walk a mile to and going back home every day to be in our program.
And probably that's because there isn't a similar program at their school.
Yes, but I think it also is, there's something about our program, that the culture that we've built, what we are offering, they find it's worthwhile to make those sacrifices. And so again, there's all these issues. Yes, offering after school, but you face different challenges by doing that.
I'm going to ask one sobering question here. Lonnie in Manoa asks, if wealthier schools can afford fine arts programs, is the socioeconomic gap likely to widen if fine arts continue to decline in poor areas? Is that happening? I mean, do we have an economic gap in the difference? You're nodding, Marilyn.
But sadly, yes, it is happening. And it would be advisable for everybody that you're referring to, whether it's the school administrators or the state legislature or the communities, to recognize that, because they're the ones that can step up and go talk to the kids. The kids don't want to have something where they have to pick after school. If it's just part of their day, the kids will say, yes, of course they will.
So where's the pressure going to come from, though?
Everybody.
I mean, do we see it happening? Do I hear a movement? I don't hear a movement. I hear people getting mad when something gets taken away.
Yes.
I don't know. Every school that we work with, and that's probably over 40 to 50 schools this year, I consistently hear from teachers, from principals, from parents, from students that they're very enthusiastic about having arts in their school. I think there's a demand out there. I don't know how organized and well articulated that demand is to pressure for change, but certainly it's just sort of ear to the railroad track seems to be telling us there's a lot of interest in it, and that we've kind of gone through this desert period of the arts disappearing from schools, and I think people are frustrated with that.
Robin Kitsu from Nanakuli, do you think it's going to require data, though, to get into the minds of most of the GOE bureaucracy?
I think it helps, but you know, I think, again, you look at the products that the students are producing, and you look at the intrinsic gains that the students are showing, and I think it speaks for itself. But you know, when you talked about the socioeconomic, you know, obviously, if you look at the data, the schools that are in the well-to-do communities are doing better academically. So there's your correlation.
Okay, okay, I have to wrap up the panel. Thank you very much. It's been a great show. I appreciate it. Hawaii is the most oil-dependent state in the nation. Change the subject dramatically, but lawmakers think we can eliminate our reliance on fossil fuels over the next 30 years. Solar, wind, wave, and geothermal energy currently account for roughly a fifth of the state's energy production. Is it realistic to force the state to use alternative sources of energy? On the next Insights, is a 100% renewable energy goal attainable? Next time on Insights on PBS Hawaii, I'm Daryl Huff. A hui ho.